Dear Barons, I'm reaching out to you on behalf of KAILASA in response to the article published on your website. The title of this racist, Hindu-phobic, and defamatory article is Paraguay Official Sacked After Dealing with Fictitious Country. This article was published on the date November 30th, 2023. The article is written by and attributed to AFP Agents France Press, AFP.com. While we acknowledge the vital role media plays in disseminating information, we are alarmed to witness the media's unethical stance and systematic disinformation campaign to misrepresent and perpetuate further persecution of our already marginalized and persecuted minority, indigenous Hindu communities that are represented by KAILASA. It is unfortunate that this article was published without contacting us. As a prominent media outlet, I am confident that you understand there is always two sides to a story. We would appreciate that if you would, in the future, contact us. Hear our side prior to publishing such articles. We avail ourselves of this opportunity to set the record straight. You, by publishing this article, are undeniably responsible for furthering this one-sided disinformation campaign and inciting hate against our persecuted indigenous Hindu community. Disappointingly, this article was published on your website without contacting us. We strongly condemn any such Hindu-phobic, racist, lawfare, and disinformation systematically perpetrated through such articles. Such racist lawfare and disinformation, as history has shown, is a weapon of heinous genocides that the imperial racist had inflicted transnationally for thousands of years, which displaced millions of Hindus, pushing them into generations of homelessness and statelessness. While you may not be the original author or publisher of these articles, you are responsible and accountable for the ramifications of hosting and disseminating disinformation carried through this racist article. Internationally, it is recognized that the ethics of journalism include truth and accuracy, independence, fairness and impartiality, humanity, accountability. Your article does not fall under any of these ethics of journalism. We request these serious violations to be immediately addressed by you. Now I will address the disinformation against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Nithyananda Paramashivoham, related to the false and malicious allegations of rape. These are unproven allegations, which are completely false and malicious as part of racist propaganda against Hinduism and Hindu gurus, including the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The racist media cannot say that the allegations are proven. It is important to note that despite nearly 15 years of malicious prosecution and vexatious litigation in India, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has never been convicted of any crime. So this is point number one. The allegations are unproven, and this is an undeniable fact. The second point, these unproven allegations are false and malicious. Here's the proof. More than 10 years ago, regarding the false allegations of rape, the U.S. judiciary in the United States District Court, Southern District of Ohio, case number 213 CV00526, the court fined the false victim a near $500,000 in penalty for making these false and malicious accusations. So what is the conclusion? These false allegations were intended to defame the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. We, the people of KAILASA, have a U.S. court order which clearly establishes that these allegations are false and malicious. This court order also establishes that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is innocent and vindicate the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism from all these false allegations of rape. Third point, KAILASA is the first nation for Hindus. Kailasa is created to protect persecuted minority Hindu indigenous communities. However, the racist media is defaming Kailasa, calling it a fake nation and delegitimizing the purpose of Kailasa, furthering the persecution of an already marginalized and persecuted minority, indigenous Hindu communities that are represented by Kailasa. If the media cries for the human rights of others, then why not us? Where are our human rights? Why is Kailasa being targeted and singled out by the media? Is that not racist? On one side, it is a legal fact that the allegations are unproven. On another side, it is established in the US court that the allegations are false and malicious, and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is innocent. And then there is an unjustified ongoing attack on Hinduism and on Kailasa by the racist media. The racist media is purposely not stating the truth. Will the racist media say Nithyananda is a fugitive of unproven false and malicious allegations of rape? No, because it doesn't push the racist agenda against Hinduism, and it fully exposes the racist media's bias and prejudice. The truth is that these malicious false allegations and racist media's prejudice and coverage are a part of raging lawfare and disinformation propaganda against Hinduism, Hindu minorities, Hindu gurus, including the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Now I will address the matter regarding the false dehumanizing statement of the racist media when they address the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as a fugitive. To highlight a few points contrary to your article, Interpol has rejected any request to issue any notices for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, based on evidence that was presented to them, clearly establishing that your statements are not true. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, is not a fugitive. The Supreme Pontiff is a persecuted individual whose basic human rights were denied, which is well documented with a comprehensive and voluminous amount of evidence that can be shared with you upon request. Furthermore, the US court order exonerates the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. We have mentioned this several times, and we reiterate the Ohio, USA Federal Court ruled in favor of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Nithyananda Paramashivam, and fined the false victim nearly $500,000 in penalty. The omission of the US court orders that exonerates the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism of the false accusations, and at the same time actively spreading disinformation in relation to this clearly illustrate the bias in your media reporting. Now, regarding the disinformation about Kailasa and the false portrayal of Kailasa as a non-existent nation. Are Taiwan, Kosovo, and Palestine a state? Some would say yes, and others would say no. What is incontrovertible is that self-determination is a human right, enshrined in many international instruments. Another incontrovertible human right is the right to freedom of religion. People with a common origin, history, language, culture, customs, or religion can turn into a nation through the awakening of a national consciousness. A nation can exist even without a state, as is exemplified by the stateless nations. Citizenship is not always the nationality of a person. The United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, recognized in 178 nations, in its very first article declares all people have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. These are rights being exercised by all of Kailasa's citizens. Kailasa may be less recognized compared to other states, but that doesn't deny the people of Kailasa from exercising their fundamental human rights and political rights of building diplomatic relations and recognition. Kailasa is a sovereign entity as per international law. Kailasa is a non-violent, humanitarian, service-oriented nation. And we are being hammered and persecuted by Hindu-phobic, Hindu-mesic, racist forces, denying our right to exist, denying our right to get recognition, and denying us and delegitimizing us of our right to survive. Next, I will address the disinformation against Kailasa, that is, the false, defamatory, derogatory claim that Kailasa representatives duped officials. False claims that Kailasa representatives signed a memorandum of understanding or agreement. The document referenced in your news articles and reports was neither a memorandum of understanding nor an agreement, but a proclamation. As it is a proclamation, there is nothing that Kailasa receives in return. Furthermore, even an MOU would have been merely a statement of a possibility of contributions in the future. However, Kailasa, without any vested interests, without anything to gain, without any obligation to contribute, completely, selflessly has contributed 3 million Paraguayan Guaranis worth of medical aid to support the people in the local community of Paraguay. Kailasa's humanitarian aid is not gathered through taxes as how most established nations would, but is instead raised through hard work and sacrifices of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Nithyananda Paramashivoham, and contributions of hardworking individuals as well of the persecuted minority, indigenous communities, which were inspired by witnessing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's relentless sacrifices and unshakable commitments towards Hinduism. And now, regarding the disinformation against Kailasa, false, defamatory, and derogatory claim that Kailasa's sister city agreement is a scam. Kailasa is a sovereign entity as per international law. Kailasa is the revival of the ancient enlightened Hindu civilizational nation, which is being revived by displaced Hindus from around the world. Kailasa is a recognized international body and has established bilateral relations and has not scammed anyone. Organizations and institutions representing Kailasa have established diplomatic relationships with many cities, states, municipalities around the world, bridging cultures, encouraging interreligious dialogue, and continuing our Hindu based humanitarian services, and to promote global peace through better understanding of diverse cultures. On November 9th, 2023, Kailasa contributed 3 million Paraguayan Guaranis worth of medical aid to support the people of Paraguay. Kailasa is committed to making more such contributions. However, it is unfortunate that through Hindu phobic racist articles, the media has derailed such humanitarian services that Kailasa has committed to. You, by hosting and publishing this article, have extraordinarily amplified this systematic persecution. Instead of recognizing these extraordinary contributions, the authors, publishers, have put systemic and focused efforts to perpetuating deeply harmful information that directly harms the vulnerable community who are beneficiaries of Kailasa's humanitarian aid. We demand a sincere apology for the blatant inaccuracies presented in your articles and publications. A correction or clarification, acknowledging the false information and providing accurate details about Kailasa is imperative to rectify the harm caused. Your role as a responsible media entity obliges you to act in the public interest and uphold journalistic integrity. We anticipate your prompt cooperation in setting the record straight and, in doing so, cease the perpetuation of harmful narratives. We are open to further discussions and providing additional information. Thank you for your immediate attention to this matter. We accept a resolute and corrective response. Thank you, Nithyananda.